High in the mountains, where the air is thin and the cold bites deep, lived a man named Eric. Eric was a climber, a man who had spent his life conquering peaks, each one higher and more treacherous than the last. But there was one mountain that had always eluded him. It was the tallest, the most dangerous, and the most unforgiving of them all. The locals called it the crown of the world. Many had tried to reach the summit, but none had returned. The mountain was known to take the lives of those who dared to challenge it. But Eric was determined. He had made a promise that he would conquer the crown of the world, no matter the cost. With each step, the air grew thinner and the cold more intense. The mountain tested Eric's resolve at every turn, throwing blizzards, avalanches, and sheer drops in his path. But Eric pressed on, driven by the memory of the promise he had made. A promise to his father, who had attempted the same climb years before and never returned. As he neared the summit, Eric faced the greatest challenge yet, a narrow ridge, barely wide enough for his boots, with sheer cliffs plunging into the abyss on either side. One wrong step could mean the end, but Eric knew he couldn't turn back. Not now, not after coming this far. Exhausted and on the verge of collapse, Eric finally reached a plateau just below the summit. The peak was within reach, but his body was failing him. He could feel the cold seeping into his bones, and his vision was starting to blur. In that moment, he took out a photograph of his father, the man who had inspired him to become a climber, the man who had never returned from this very mountain. Eric knew that he was not just climbing for himself, but for his father's memory. With a deep breath and a final surge of willpower, Eric pushed himself to his feet. He could feel his father's presence with him, guiding him, urging him onward. Step by step, he climbed, each one more difficult than the last. But with every foot he gained, the summit grew nearer, until finally, after what felt like an eternity, Eric reached the top. At the top of the world, Eric stood victorious. He had kept his promise. The sun broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the frozen landscape, as if blessing his achievement. Eric planted a flag in the snow, inscribed with his father's name. It was a tribute, not just to his father's memory, but to the spirit of perseverance that had driven them both. Sometimes, the greatest mountains we climb are within ourselves. Honor your promises, and you'll find the strength to conquer even the tallest peaks.